time over to our very own Rebecca Palmer, who is over PR and communications with RevRoad, and to Brett Grow for the interview.
Thank you, Darren.
Let's welcome them.
Well, I'm so excited to introduce Brett today. Darren gave us some great information. Brett is the founder and CEO of a company called Linktrust, which he led for 15 years. That's a Provo company. And actually, after beating cancer last year, Brett beat the cancer, not his partners. But in January, Brett and his partners had a successful acquisition. Since then, Brett's enjoyed spending time with his family, his wife Kate, and their 4 kids. They live here in Provo now. He also plays ukulele, I understand. He mentors.
Not very well.
No.
Not very well.
Well, we should have had you play, like the
That's
entertainment.
why I didn't bring it.
And also coaches comedy improv, is that right?
Well, I participate in it.
Oh,
yes,
participates.
I'm a big fan of it.
All right, we might have to bring some of that out later on.
Maybe not.
See. So tell us about Linktrust and how it was kind of an accidental entrepreneurship for you.
Oh, sure. I guess I always considered myself an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay.
My dad grew up and was in the same company for like 30 years, and I guess that was like the thing back then, right? You get your pension, and I was like, well, that sounds good to me. I'll just do that. And so I never really saw myself as an entrepreneur. Even while I was running Linktrust, I really never felt like I was an entrepreneur. I was just doing what I needed to do to make a living. But Linktrust is a marketing platform. It tracks online marketing efforts. It helps you run affiliate programs, ambassador programs, customer loyalty programs. And it also allows you to track and manage and sell consumer leads. So it's kind of like an all-around marketing platform for being able to understand what your marketing is providing. And are they really just clicks, or are they actually turning into sales, which ultimately is more important. So that's what we've been doing.
So how did you go from that situation, you were going to be a company man, and then building this and eventually starting your own company? Maybe you could tell the audience about that story.
When you think of an entrepreneur, sometimes you think of, like they take big risks, and they do, but I was really pretty risk adverse. It was more important to me just to provide for the family. And if I could be an entrepreneur and do that, great, I could do that too. And so I started by connecting with a friend of mine. We happened to be working in the same marketing company. And I was doing a lot of repetitive tasks, coding, capturing leads, and trying to analyze where things were coming from and what was going on. And I knew from my background in software that could totally be automated. So I connected with him, and we got permission from the owner of the company that on our free time we could just build our own software that would automate my work. And so I brought working with him, with my partner, I brought my 8-hour workday down to about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Which is great. And I felt like there's got to be more people like me out there that could really just love this. And so we continued to refine the software and improve it. And I moved through several different marketing companies all the time. And maybe what helped me get these jobs was I always said to them, if you get me, you get my software, right?
Oh, wow.
But I get all the ideas to put into the software. And so I continued to refine it, and eventually the opportunities that we were missing by being full-time employees of somebody else were just too high, and we realized now we needed to make that leap. And for us, the leap was pretty unremarkable. It was really more like, I have this credit card and this credit card. I think we have $7,000 available on these credit cards. I can live for 2 months. Okay, I'll go out for 2 months. You stay employed, and in 2 months we'll know if it's a success or not, right? So, but within, I'd say the next month, we brought my partner on full time too. It was very successful.
Oh, wow. So, that does sound kind of risky to go 2 months on credit cards, but
yeah,
seems like it worked out. Now,
I don't recommend it. Okay, I'm not recommending that you do that, but.
So we were talking before, and it kind of seems like the timing really worked out. About 15 years ago, was it the SaaS industry that was in its infancy, or the marketing data So how did the new industry kind of part of it work out for your company?
Well, there was a lot of open opportunity out there. There was not a lot of marketing SaaS products out there. I mean, even social marketing was relatively new. I think MySpace was around and Napster was around and things like that.
Good times, good times.
But there wasn't a whole lot that was like specifically built for marketing companies. And so most marketing agencies had to build their own internal software
right.
to handle the needs that they needed. And there was one big company at the time that was kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the industry. And in my opinion, like that's a prime opportunity. When you have somebody that does what you want to do, but there's only one of them, and maybe they don't even do it very well, but it's the only place people have to go, that's a huge opportunity to just create an alternative product. And even if there's a couple people out there, you can always get into a market if the market's big enough. And this market was huge.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. So let's skip ahead a little bit. But how did you deal with that competition? There's being one main player and you kind of being the underdog. How did that play out? Or did I even characterize that correctly?
No, yeah, we were the underdog. We've been the underdog for a long time because we've always been bootstrapped. So I think that kept us an underdog for a while because we had competitors, new competitors came on the scene, and they immediately got funding. We competed with 2 other platforms, each of which had about 500 employees each, and they each had about $16 to $30 million in VC funding.
Wow.
And we were like
significant.
12 people in Lehigh working on a shoestring budget. And we were competing, right? The platform was definitely competing with them, but we were always seen as the underdog. And there was sort of an advantage to being the underdog in marketing. Sometimes marketing people like to, sponsor the underdog. That's always nice. But I always, I don't know, I enjoy starting that way. I enjoy the challenge of doing something that people don't expect and being able to pull it off.
Yeah, being able to pull it off, that's really exciting. Yeah. So to people who may be entrepreneurs now or maybe looking for an idea, would you suggest looking for kind of a brand new industry? What are some of the risks and the opportunities with something kind of brand new like you did?
Well, I would start with what you know. Don't start with just like what's the big opportunity out there. Start with like, well, what do I know that could be a big opportunity? What am I really good at? Or what do I want to become really good at? Because if it's not your passion, then you're building something that you're really not ultimately interested in, and then there is no passion in it, right?
Yeah.
And then when it gets hard, because it will always get hard, it's hard to get through the hard spots if you're not passionate about it. So find out what you really love to do, and then see, okay, how can I apply what I really love to do to a market? Is it missing in the market altogether? Or is somebody already doing what I would love to do, but they're just not doing a good enough job, or maybe I can improve upon it?
Okay, yeah, that's some really good advice. Well, and you mentioned earlier about bootstrapping versus taking on VC money.
Yeah.
First of all, tell me a little bit more about how that worked with Linktrust, and then I think the audience would be interested. What do you recommend? What's a good strategy?
What's a good strategy? Well, there is no like one strategy fits all. But
true, always true.
So we bootstrapped for 15 years, the entire time of the company, and our motivation for doing that was a couple things. One was we enjoyed being our own bosses. Like we enjoyed being able to call the shots, and we enjoyed being able to not just look at the bottom line, but also be able to enjoy the experience of owning our own company. That was something that we just enjoyed doing. The other was that in online marketing and tracking, especially in like performance marketing, which is one of the niches that we were really strong in, there's a real high propensity for software companies to also facilitate porn and gambling.
Right, I was going to ask.
Yeah, so all of our competitors, pretty much all of them, facilitated porn and gambling sites, or owners or companies or whatever it might be. There's so much money in it. And
right, it's hard to turn down.
Right, and if you're just looking at the bottom line and you have to report to the shareholders, a lot of times that's where they go. They go to those industries. And we knew that if we were going to go get funding, we had to find the right person. or entity. And for us, in the beginning, it was just like, we just kind of avoided it because we knew that we could hold our values without having to worry about it if we owned the company.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Not taking funding kind of gave you the freedom to make those kind of big decisions. Oh, that's interesting. But about that no porn, no gambling money. Why did you make that decision? How did it play out?
Well, I mean, that's core to me and my wife and who we are. I could never do that and like look at my children in the face and think that I'm actually proliferating something that would be so damaging to them, to society, and relationships. But and you make sacrifices. Like, we turned down big contracts that could have made us really rich. We had to let clients go that decided to get into it, right? And they try to get in under the radar, and you're like, and first we educate, right? We always try to educate and facilitate them getting into other things. But ultimately, you can't change what somebody else does, and you have to cancel contracts which is really anti-intuitive to business, right? A lot of businesses, they'll be like, they just don't worry about it, right? Everybody just turns a blind eye to it. So you do make sacrifices for your values and your morals, but you know what? If you're not making sacrifices, then, are they really your values and your morals?
Right. Yeah. So, and you mentioned your wife. Remind me, what was her role in all of this? So
Kate, and I tried to convince her to come today, but she says that she is out of the business world right now. So,
well, tell her we missed her.
She's phenomenal. She is a better business person than I am.
Oh, wow.
And I think she got that from homeschooling. So she homeschools our kids. We've been doing that for about 12 to 15 years. And, you think you have to manage employees. Well, managing, children at home, especially one that's ADHD, that's different.
Oh, right? I can imagine.
The benefits are harder to see sometimes. So we actually, she came in the last 4 years of the company. So we had a really tough spell in the company where we needed to, we were, with all the competition, with the fact that we didn't take any money, and also the fact that we had built a culture of entitlement along the way, because when I first started the company, my idea of a company was like, okay, I'm going to build the best company that I would ever want to work at. Okay, what does that mean? That means soda machines, lunch for everybody gets their own office, right? Big mistake. Big mistake.
Yeah.
And it just, over the years, it just got worse and worse and worse. And we knew that we needed a major culture shift, first and foremost. We needed a culture shift before we made a profitability shift. And we needed a profitability shift, too. And we were, I think at that time, we were burning like $30,000 a month as a company. We had eaten up most of our financial reserves over time. And we had just over $2 million in debt. Most of it was personal guarantees, which means that, if you don't satisfy the debt, it doesn't just like, the company doesn't go away.
It's not the company, it's you.
It means your house goes away, your car goes away, everything else. So I don't recommend ever signing a personal guarantee when you have a company, but
I write that down, guys.
I had to learn that the hard way. So we made a conscious effort, number one, to get completely out of debt, which is hard to do when you're still burning $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
And to change the culture to a culture that we really wanted, which was a culture of collaboration and a culture of everybody looking beyond themselves, right? For doing good, not just pulling a paycheck. And so when Kate came in, she has a background in organizational behavior, and she did not want to come in. She had the family thing going on. She had homeschool, and she had her activities and her projects. And she reluctantly came in, but she knew that she needed to come in, and it was the best thing for us. And it was the hardest thing for us. Like, we worked side by side as a couple for 4 years, and not 40 hours a week, more like 120 hours a week, because work comes home with you, right? And you're still working on things. But it was through reorganizing and creating processes and finding out what is our vision as a company and what are our core values, what do we stand for, and how do we hire to those core values, and how do we mentor people into positions that, the right people into the right positions, really. And so that was really instrumental in our turnaround. And It
So-
took us, yeah, go ahead.
So you brought her on, and she helped you kind of make the plan, and then you got new hires based on the plan. Is that how that
Yeah,
worked?
she helped tremendously in coming up with the plan. You know, when you are in the business for a long period of time, you don't see things like somebody who's outside the business can come in,
Oh,
whether it's a
sure.
consultant,
Yeah.
a mentor, a trusted advisor. And so her coming
A
in from the
spouse.
outside was like our trusted advisor coming in.
Oh, great.
Right?
Yeah.
So she assumed the role. I kept the role as CEO. She assumed the role as president of the company. And we started making changes. And it took us 2.5 years to make all the changes we needed. But by the end, we were debt-free. We had a phenomenal team that worked for us. Like, I just love them to death. They're like family. Because they're so giving and so selfless, and you know, when you find people to work for you that their soul is behind what you're doing, it's not the money. The money helps them live, but their soul is into this thing and they're energized for it. Like, it's amazing what people will accomplish, and it blew me away every day. And that
that's
was,
great.
you know, when we sold the company in January, that was the hardest part, was just leaving them. I knew that they were in good hands because we did find the right investor to take us to the next level, who shared our values.
Yeah.
But I miss them. Like, I
Yeah.
miss them. They're really good people, and those are the type of people I think that I would trust at the helm of the company.
So how did you find them? Like, kind of going back to what Mark was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, was it about asking the right interview questions? Was it about referrals? I mean, how did that play out
It's
when you're rebuilding your
It's a lot
staff?
of all of that, actually.
Yeah?
It is, yeah. You know, we did hire family in the beginning, and that brings extra challenges. Just be aware of the challenges that brings. That's extra work you're going to have to do. And bringing in your spouse. Okay, if your spouse isn't part of your startup, just go into it with eyes wide open, both of you. Like, this will be hard. It could be hard on your relationship. It could be easy on your relationship. But I've interviewed a lot of small businesses. We partnered with Infusionsoft, and so they are fundamentally all about small business. And so we had an opportunity to interview lots of entrepreneurs and small businesses who were couples working together, just like we were. And we all had the same challenges. Like, it was pretty much the same thing. How do you live with your husband while you're working with him?
Right.
Right? And there's a lot of personal growth you have to go through. There's a lot of ego you have to get rid of. There's a lot of tools and principles you have to study up on. You have to learn how to collaborate well with your spouse. And the funny thing is all those things that you have to learn with your spouse, hopefully you're doing those with your employees, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
collaboration with
Interesting.
your employees, right? And understanding and listening to them, and also telling them the truth when they need to hear the truth, but really being there as a support for them in their future as well.
Oh, wow. And I understand you guys have a project that is coming together related to this.
Yes. So,
right? Is that still in the works?
It is, actually. We're writing a book.
Wow.
That sounds big. I mean, it's just a book.
No, that is big. That is really big. What do you mean?
We're just putting it down on paper. And so basically, it's called Hell Diamonds. And basically, it is the diamonds that we learned as a couple working together through restructuring a company. The diamonds that we learned as we were going through hell together. Because it was really hard on us as a couple working together. We're probably not a natural fit to work together, but we made it work. And we had to come up with some tools, concrete, actionable tools that would help us work better together. And so we're just publishing all those tools. There's 9 tools that we have that we use. How to have collaborative meetings, like I said, you know. How do you actually do that?
Yeah.
You know, because there are lots of meetings that we've had where it ended in just like yelling, right?
Right,
Okay, well,
right.
how do we get past that and get to like results and working together as a couple rather than, you know, having friction?
Right. Well, and as you mentioned, I mean, it's great that you got to learn that with Kate.
Yeah.
and do that together. But it's really, I mean, you want to have collaborative meetings with everybody
Yeah.
in your company every time you have a meeting. That's the point, right?
That is the point,
this
yes.
seems like this resource would be valuable, whether or not you work with your family.
That's true. We just have a heart for couples who are going through
Yeah.
it, right? Because we identify with that. And it's a lot of meetings are just well, everyone's heard of meetings are for meetings. Like meetings, there's always the person that like hates the meetings, right? Why are we having another meeting? I just hate meetings. They're always having meetings, right? And there is a level of like truth you have to look at why that perspective is created.
Right.
And it's because a lot of meetings are not very productive.
Yeah.
So you have to look and say, why aren't they productive? Well, oftentimes the loudest person wins in the meeting, or the best debater. I'm a really good debater, and I'm really loud. That's a really bad quality to have sometimes as a CEO of a company. So I had to learn to sit back and shut up and just like listen and listen. And once I started learning like how to have collaborative meetings, man, I learned so much more. I couldn't believe it. And I learned what everybody else was really capable of. And so, meetings happen all the time, but whether they're good meetings and whether they actually come out of it with concrete action steps and accountability and follow-up. I mean, how many people have had a meeting where or an idea comes up and you say, oh, that's a great idea. You know what? I think we talked about that. When was that? It was like 24 months ago. Why didn't we do that? I don't know. We should have a meeting about that. And then 24 months later, you'll talk about the same thing again. It's because there's no follow-up, there's no accountability, there's no moving forward. So.
Well, I mean, it seems, from everything you've told me, the people really, really mattered for you.
Yeah.
And they mattered when you didn't have quite the right people. That mattered a lot.
Yeah.
And then getting the right people made all the difference. Do you have any idea how many employees, how many families you were able to, give a livelihood through Linktrust?
We were still a small company when we were acquired. We had about 18 employees. But I was actually on, I think it was LinkedIn. I was on LinkedIn and I saw somebody's face. And I was like, I know that person. How do I know that person? I looked up and I'm like, oh, they worked here at Linktrust like 8-9 years ago. That's right.
Oh, wow.
They were only here for like a month. And then I was like, oh, it says, see, all people were like this. So I looked it up and I'm like, there were like 200 people.
Wow.
And that was a shocker to me because, usually you just see your small business as who's like working for you now, but you don't realize that you have this impact like over a long period of time with a lot of people. And that's pretty amazing. And there's a certain like humility to it that, you look at the families that are relying on you to make good decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And you're helping them to support their family.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of mouths to feed, and there's a lot of people to take care of.
Right. A lot of responsibility.
A lot of responsibility. It's a privilege, but it has to be taken with a lot of responsibility and a lot of care in making sure that you get the right people. I really like the last discussion, getting the right people on the bus in the right seats. Because the last thing you want to do is leave like a trail of desolation behind you, right? Yeah. Here's all the employees that hate us. I hope I never see them in Costco, right? Like that would stink. It's like, oh, I better move cities every once in a while because I just don't handle people very well. So I'm really glad for the fact that, we've had a lot of employees and we've had to let employees go and just that's the way business is. But we're always on a good relationship with our employees and our
that's
past
great.
employees.
That's so good to hear. It's great that companies can do that. Well, and entrepreneurs can do that. I mean, we love entrepreneurs, and that's a big part of the reason. I think we have just a few minutes for audience questions. So raise your hand and let them bring the mic to you. Does anybody have a question? AJ, do you have a question?
I do. Brett, what do you feel like has been your biggest accomplishment? If you were to look at everything you've done, what are you most proud of?
That's a good question. It might surprise you, but it's not the company. The company was my greatest pressure cooker for learning. So my greatest accomplishment is really is the progress that I've made over, I would say, the last 5 years specifically in trying to overcome myself. in trying to improve myself. I look at that because that to me was Herculean. Like, running the company was easy. Overcoming character weakness is hard. And so for me, I think that's my greatest success, I hope, right? So.
Very cool.
Thanks for the question.
Very cool. Thanks.
We have Bridger, is that your name?
Bridger. Yeah.
Bridger, yeah, go ahead.
You said earlier that, and I hear this a lot, about finding what you really love to do and doing that over and over and over and in a professional capacity. What is it, not that you love to do in a professional capacity, but what's the core, what's the root thing that you love to do that you don't tire of?
That I don't hire out.
That you don't tire
That you
of.
don't tire of.
I don't tire of.
Yeah. Question.
So I love software. I mean, that is kind of the professional capacity, I guess. I love software. I love to build things that people get to use. That's probably boiling it really down. And that's what got me started. When I went to college, I started building websites back in 1999. The websites back then were like business cards. They had emojicons on them going like this, but that was about it. Static information. But I built websites, and then I got my family to look at it, and then other people looked at it, and I was like, well, I better put something useful on there. So I put something useful on there, and I just love the fact that I can build something, and then other people can appreciate and use it and do something good with it. So.
Good question. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah,
follow-up?
please.
Yeah.
You keep mentioning overcoming your ego, and could you tell us what's been helpful in that process?
Oh, yeah. Being married. That's one. I take time every morning to prepare myself for the day. That's been something that has made the biggest difference for me. And I've been doing this for years now. And I feel like I can go along a lot more in this, but so I take time to exercise and run in the morning, number one, because it's hard to overcome your ego if you feel like you're kind of cloudy. Number two is I'll read. So I read a couple good books. I love Leadership and Self-Deception. It's a great book. I also read the 12-Step Program. And
interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I don't know if any of you have actually read that, but it is all about overcoming character weakness. And at first I wouldn't read it because I'm like, well, I'm not an addict. I'm not going to read that. But then, I after going through probably halfway, I was like, this is really amazing character-changing stuff. So anywhere that you can find good content about changing your character, and I've seen there's great TED Talks out there as well. So just be an avid learner, and I try to do that in the morning time. So I'll take an hour every morning and just read and study and try to open up my mind.
Oh, that is so awesome. You must be so busy, but taking that
not
time.
Anymore.
Well, not anymore.
I'm trying to get busier. Let's put it that way.
Right, and that actually leads me to one of my last questions I like to ask everybody is, what's next?
That's a good question. At my wife's request, I took some time off to figure out what I wanted to do. Sometimes when you do something so long, you can start to identify with it, and that becomes your identity.
Yeah.
And I decided, well, that could be a risk. Okay, I'll take some time off, and I'll figure out what I like to do. And so, I've started a little company on the side, and I've done some mentoring to other companies, and I've also looked at opportunities within other SaaS companies, some executive leadership opportunities that are really exciting. And then, of course, my wife and I really love real estate, so we do vacation rentals as well, just kind of like a hobby on the side.
Yeah, fun.
So I think, what's my future right now looks like I'm going to go see what executive leadership opportunities are with SaaS companies. Be able to help mentor startups and entrepreneurs is something that I really want to do as well. So I'm just going to try to combine those two together.
Oh, great. And you've talked to Mark about that, I'm sure.
Yep.
Head of Mentors, awesome. So let's end on kind of a fun note. What is something that's really fun or really exciting that you've gotten to do because of your success? Perhaps with your family.
The funnest things that I've been able to do is travel with them. So we would do a lot of traveling to like New York for trade shows and business things like that. So I would bring the kids. And that was always fun because they got to explore, because we were a homeschool family, so they got to explore New York, right? And it was really fun because my wife would be, at the time she had a stroller and she had like 3 kids. I think we only had 3 at the time. And, she's in the subway exploring New York on her own. And she's like, oh, everybody's so nice here. They always ask to help the stroller up the stairs. And they're always coming around saying, are these all yours? And we're like, it's just 3. Like, it's not that many, but I guess it is. So, like, the cultural experience that my kids and my wife, that we get to explore together. And then we had a cool opportunity to go to the Czech Republic and mentor young entrepreneurs there for a while, too, as a family. And so I think that's the most exciting thing that we've been able to share as a family, is to share those parts where we can be together and we can teach our kids how to be entrepreneurs and go help other people be successful.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's all about experiences, right?
Yeah.
So any kind of last takeaways for our audience, things you think entrepreneurs should know or you wish you had known perhaps 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, well, let's see. One thing that I'm a people pleaser by nature. And so I am overcoming my nature of people pleasing because it doesn't do anybody else any favors. So for instance, if I don't help somebody else be accountable for their actions at work, then I'm actually doing them a huge disservice. If I don't tell them what's wrong or how they can improve or where they may have fallen short and help them to make the next level, then I am not helping them to grow. And I've learned a lot lately about when you don't go out of your way to help somebody else grow, even when it's hard, like if you have to give some harsh feedback so that they can grow, you're being selfish. You're thinking about your own self. You're being very defensive. And so as an entrepreneur, that would have helped me a lot in the beginning. So I could have helped people be accountable for what they're doing, and they could have grown as a result.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, Darren, do you want to come back on the stage? We think we have some exciting prizes for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's trade places.
Brett, you can see why I was excited to have Brett speak today. It's so wonderful.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great principles that you not only share with us, but you've exemplified in your life, and we're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Sharing them with
Appreciate
us.
Appreciate it.
And we have a couple of small gifts that we hope you'll enjoy. So you have all the best, latest RevRoad swag.
Thank you very much.
We hope you will enjoy that. And I hope everyone in the audience heard loud and clear. What's next is an awesome executive leadership position in a SaaS company. Could be yours right here.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, before you all go, we're going to do our raffle. Sophie, do you want to come up? Thank you. And everyone got a little ticket when they came in, and they put their numbers on, so we're going to do that. I'd like to also, again, recognize Jared Richards and thank him for lunch. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, you ready? Here you go. Yeah.
6669803. Does everyone have their ticket?
6669803. Who's got 9803? Some people are still looking for theirs, so we'll wait just a moment. Let's see. How's the? All right, 803. Going once. Going twice. Next, gonna draw another one.
Sarah AC.
Sarah, right here. Awesome. Okay, Sarah, you get to choose. Water bottle, t-shirt. T-shirt for sure. Excellent. Okay, and next one. Last one. Go for it.
Okay, it's another number. 804.
Who has 804? 804. Choose another.
802.
802. Yeah, there we go. All right, Adam. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming. Next month, RevU is going to be on July 5th. Yes, that is the day after the 4th. the first Thursday of every month. I hope you'll join us. Looking forward to having you here. And when our topic will be video production. Who wants to know how to make video help sell yourself and your company? All of us. So we'll see you then. Thanks, and appreciate you coming.